On this week's episode of Tech Roundup, we're taking a look at Intel finally competing with AMD's 3D V-Cache and selling their NUC business unit to ASUS, as well as ARM looking to maybe finally go public after their failed sale to NVIDIA, as well as Apple actually having iPhones banned in China, at least for government officials. We'll also take a look at the recent release from AMD of the RX 7700 and 7800 XT and how they compare to the latest generation from NVIDIA. And finally, we'll take a look at a supposedly denied warranty claim by MSI due to a failed CableMod adapter. So all that on this week's episode. Let's jump into it. So first up, we have Intel taking a page out of Apple's playbook, maybe even AMD's as well, looking to implement a DRAM cache on their latest iteration of CPUs. So it'll be an on-package DRAM cache. This latest rumor suspects that it's 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X 7500 speed coming from Samsung and being installed directly on a Meteor Lake package. Now, this is very similar to the designs of both the M1 and M2 ARM chips from Apple, as well as not exactly the same, but similar to the 3D V-Cache of the 7900 X3D, 7950 X3D from AMD. So all those X3D CPUs have that added layer of L2 cache that Intel is looking to potentially do with this type of design. It could be a huge game changer for desktop CPUs, but in the meantime, it's looking like it's going to target more laptop-oriented chips that are focused more on efficiency, smaller package design to take the DRAM off of the motherboard and put it directly on the CPU package. So this could be huge for efficiency as well as performance, putting the DRAM that close to the CPU itself. So really looking forward to what kind of performance this might come with once these chips actually get released. And Intel may have been able to bankroll some of that product development with its mid-July non-exclusive sale of its NUC product segment to ASUS. But as of September 1st, NUC is finally a part of the ASUS family. So they are fully supporting all previously sold NUCs from Intel themselves, but also then manufacturing those exact same existing NUC products for at least under the ASUS brand. But now they are also potentially looking at coming up with some new NUC products. So I am super interested to see what ASUS is able to do with these super small, compact NUC designs, not only the ones that are more focused for just a small mini PC to have on your desk just to maybe do some browsing or content consumption, but ones focused on gaming. I mean, those NUCs that are focused on gaming that pack a super powerful CPU and GPU combination inside of a super tiny package, smaller than most ITX cases. It'll be really intriguing to see what ASUS is able to do with the NUC brand. Of course, it's non-exclusive, so other brands can also develop NUC products. So I'm kind of interested to see what this market looks like in a couple of years. And there could be a major changeup in the CPU space soon, with ARM looking to go public with an IPO. So after NVIDIA's failed takeover of ARM for $40 billion from SoftBank, there are a lot of companies chomping at the bit to get a piece of the pie prior to ARM going public. So the likes of Apple, NVIDIA, and Google are looking to spend up to $800 million acquiring shares of ARM, as well as companies like Intel, AMD, MediaTek, and others looking to get a piece of that pie just to be able to make sure that they have at least a little bit in the game when it comes to ARM processing. Of course, Apple has gone full-fledged ARM. Google, of course, with their own phone lineups, Chromebook lineups, have a major say in the ARM ecosystem as well. NVIDIA, of course, looked to acquire ARM at one point, but the likes of Intel and AMD, of course, pushing that x86 processor in CPU space for the last 20, 30, 40 years, may need to potentially shift some of that market over to ARM, and making a little bit of an acquisition of ARM could at least set them up for some future growth in that product segment. So it'll be interesting to see how the CPU market plays out over the next little while. But just like the US and UK shut down the NVIDIA buyout of ARM, China has put a stronghold on Apple, preventing any government officials from using iPhones in the country. So, I mean, China is one of course, the biggest markets for Apple. They're looking to sell almost 45 million devices this year in the country. And China taking that step to ban the use of iPhones by government officials may indicate a future next step to limit the sale of iPhone and Apple products in the country. Of course, China is looking to take on a lot more of the technology landscape within the country using homegrown, of course, tech and products, but this could be a major hit to Apple in that particular market, which is one of their biggest markets. So we'll see, of course, how that plays out. Does it stop with government officials? Does it extend outside of that group down the line? Only time will tell, but could be a little bit of a stalemate there when it comes to Apple. And now it's time to talk the recent GPU release from AMD with the announcement of the Radeon RX 7700 XT and the Radeon RX 7800 XT. So both of these cards are very competitive in the current GPU landscape, with the 7800 XT coming in with 16 gigabytes of VRAM, and at just $500 is a very, very compelling offering compared to that of the RTX 4070. So the 4070 comes in at $600. It's got 12 gigs of VRAM, and when it comes to overall performance, the 7800 XT pretty much beats out the 4070 in most titles without DLSS and without ray tracing. That is still where NVIDIA takes the lead over the likes of AMD. Their ray tracing performance and their DLSS capabilities just outweigh that of the ray tracing on both AMD cards as well as FSR2. I mean, it's just slightly different categories when it comes to those particular use cases. But for those that are just looking to stack up a 7800 XT to that of a 4070, they are very, very close. And at that $100 price point gap, it makes the 7800 XT very, very compelling. And it's also future-proofed with that extra VRAM. And when it comes to the 7700 XT, you're looking at 12 gigs of VRAM on a smaller or narrower memory bus, but overall, that card is meant to compete with the likes of the RTX 4060 Ti at $400. It's a $450 card for the 7700 XT, but it definitely beats out the 4060 Ti. So these cards are very, very compelling at their price points. I really like the price point of the 7800 XT. The 7700 XT for that $50 less, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think spending the extra $50 to get a 7800 XT is what the majority of gamers are going to do, looking at a 1440p powerhouse. And on a different note, there's some disappointing news in the GPU space with MSI rejecting a user warranty claim for an RTX 40 series card that experienced a thermal event with the 12-volt high power connector, stating that the CableMod adapter that the customer was using to go from dual 8-pin PCIe cables to the 12-volt high power connector voided the user's warranty, and now they need to direct their claim towards CableMod because their supposedly faulty power adapter is what caused this failure. Now, CableMod is saying there's no issue, but they are still going to look into this failure to see if potentially there is something that is allowing the adapter to work itself loose of that 12-volt high power connector, resulting in thermal events that could trigger fires, melting of the cables themselves. So this is an interesting one to take a look at because it's a small adapter that costs maybe $15, $20, $30. That's putting your $700, $800, $900, $1,500 graphics card at risk potentially and voiding your warranty. So if you're looking to potentially use a non-standard or an adapter that didn't come in the box with your graphics card, I would definitely just urge some caution there because this is a potential fallout of doing just that. So just a word from the wise, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really that wise. Either way, I hope to see you guys tune in next week.